Hi, everybody. So I was just on Finding Gnosis's channel, and they were talking about the shooting of Nicole Good, Renee Nicole Good, and I was absolutely appalled by some of the commentary. Um, they were just so callous and detached. Specifically, Steve Godfrey was saying that it was a good kill. He said that if you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. And this is the same person who has made video after video condemning Gary for his position on CSAM. Um, if y'all want me to roast, if y'all want me to roast him, I absolutely can. Like I'm absolutely fed up with his hypocrisy, his absolute narcissism, and no one has really called him out on his shit yet. So if y'all want me to do it, I can do it. I can do it effectively. But I didn't really want to participate in that panel discussion, so I decided to come on here and talk about my position on it because I think I would have been too like I was sitting there boiling listening to his comments, just completely defending everything that the state does. And there's a reason why he's doing that, by the way. If y'all want me to explain why he's doing what he's doing, why he is taking up space in the anti-natalist community, despite the fact that he's not an anti-natalist, despite the fact that he contributes nothing to the community, I can absolutely do that. But let me get into this because I can address that separately. Now, we've been told that life is sacred, that every life has inherent value, that the state exists primarily to protect life, that the state protects our rights, that basically without democracy, we would be completely lost, that democracy serves the collective will. All of these lies about civilization, how we're so much better than people in third world countries, right? We're so nonviolent. That's what they tell us. We're free, that we chose our government, our vote matters, we matter, we actually have a say in any of this. But anyone who questions their situation, their predicament, they're going to be pathologized, right? So when you look at your involuntary existence and you articulate the fact that you did not ask for any of this, you're going to be labeled mentally ill. They're going to tell you to call a 988 hotline. They're going to talk about how you need to look at things from the bright side, like, or basically this your perspective is wrong, that they're going to gaslight you and tell you that what you're seeing in front of your lying eyes um, needs to be corrected because you don't actually know what your actual predicament is. Life is so wonderful, right? Life is such a blessing, right? And they're going to tell you to procreate. They're going to tell you that procreation isn't inherently unethical, that there's objections to the non-entity, the non-identity question, right? Which I've already resolved, but they're going to maintain that though, right? They're going to say that the anti-natalists are the authoritarians because we have taken a position that putting human beings into this oppressive system is unethical. No, they're saying that they're the ones who are ethical because they're going to put their children into this oppressive ass system, and then they're going to say that there's something wrong for you for questioning their imposition. So I was going to play that video of this woman getting shot. I don't know if that would be appropriate. It's pretty graphic, right? Until you disobey the master state, right? Um, because you don't actually own your life. I don't know if I should play the video because it is graphic. He basically shot her in cold blood. Um, and they're over there rationalizing it, talking about how it was a good kill. This is what Steve Godfrey is saying. Gosh, y'all, I'm so tempted to roast his motherfucking ass. I'm so tired of his fucking shit. So fucking hypocritical, so holier than thou. I'm so fucking tired of Steve fucking Godfrey. Y'all, just give me the green light and I will roast his motherfucking ass. Now, let me just keep going before I get sidetracked talking about him again, because I know he loves narcissistic supply, but I will give it to him. I will give it to him real good, right? He hasn't been read for filth. I would absolutely do that if y'all just give me the okay. Just give me the okay, and I will fucking do it. Now, a lot of these people will tell you that, oh, well, if you procreate, your child may find a cure for cancer, or if you're depriving society of what somebody who's going to contribute, right? They're going to say you should procreate in order to create a vegan army, right? You should procreate, you should have more children so they can liberate animals. Never mind the human oppression, right? Because that doesn't matter, right? I'm not going to show the video because you guys can go look it up for yourself. If you want, I can post it in the description, but it's absolutely disgusting. And they're lying. They're lying because they're trying to say that she was trying to run over the ICE agent. That is completely false. I looked at the video myself. I looked at it several times from different angles. Um, she was there caring for her neighbors during an ICE raid. Um, what the video shows is that she was actually trying to get away. Now this is what they always do. They'll stand in front of the video, right? By the way, they were the aggressors in this whole situation. But you guys have to read my book because I explain the whole psychology behind it, because they're indoctrinated to never see the master state's violence because they see it as legitimate. So if any private citizen were to do what that ICE agent did, or that entire, you would see them as a group of thugs, which is exactly what they are. But because it's the state, you have been indoctrinated to see it as legitimate. They surrounded her car, prevented her from moving. They were the aggressor. She was not the aggressor. In a state of nature, if you felt threatened, your natural instinct would be to flee the scene. But no, you have been indoctrinated to basically just stand there and be oppressed and then let them impose their violence against you. You don't even have a right to defend yourself, because what? They're going to inflict their violence against you, and then what? You should just take it up with the courts. The same courts that is not going to do shit to protect you, the same courts that is going to say, oh, they're protected with immunity because the law doesn't apply to them. Read chapter 4 of my book. All of these immunity documents, they're nowhere in the Constitution. It's something that the Supreme Court concocted out of thin fucking air. So yeah, she could have allowed them to inflict their illegitimate violence against her and just went along with it. I don't know what her motivations were, but that is your natural instinct. Your natural instinct is to flee, but you're not even entitled to your natural instinct. Everything about natural law, about right and wrong, has been turned upside down because you are an abject fucking slave. You don't have a right to flee your oppression. You don't have a right to resist your oppression. You have to just stay there and fucking take it because you don't own your fucking life. The master state has superior disposal rights over your own person. So he gave her a lawful command. Whether it was legitimate or not, she was supposed to just stay there and let him inflict his violence against her. The fact that she tried to get away from his illegitimate violence gave him the right to shoot her in the face 3 times. This is some outrageous shit. And these are supposed to be the ethical theorists in our community who are sitting around justifying state violence because the state has monopoly on physical force, which I've stated multiple times throughout my book. He can't really negate any of my fucking arguments, but he wants to talk about my arguments are just based on my personal experience. I can go in. I'm going to save that for another time. Y'all let me know in the comment section if you want me to roast them, because I have content. I have plenty of commentary to go in on Steve motherfucking Godfrey. It's long overdue. Somebody should have done this a long time ago. Y'all keep giving him a free pass. You keep ignoring him. It's a problem. It's a problem. Yeah, there's not many people. I guess y'all intimidated. You're intimidated by his intellect. You think that you can't go toe to toe with him. Fuck that. Fuck that. He's really okay, y'all. Let me stick to the topic because I can roast his ass. I'm not gonna do it right now. Um, and I don't know what he posted on his wall. I'm not reading his shit. I fuck Steve Godfrey. Now anyway, now they say that she weaponized her vehicle. She attempted to run over the law enforcement officer. Watch the video. That is not what actually happened. They're lying. They're lying through their fucking teeth. Um, and what you guys need to consider is the fact that this was not an immigrant. Not to say that if she was an immigrant that this killing would have been justified. This was an American citizen. And for those who think somebody was telling me that when I talk about the master state, I'm talking about white supremacy. No, I'm not. This has nothing to do with white supremacy. This was a white woman who was killed, an American citizen who was shot in broad daylight in cold blood, and nobody gave a shit. Nobody. Where's the fucking uprising? Why are the American people putting up with this shit? You have let this shit get to this point, and it's going to get worse and worse. American people did this shit. You're complicit in this bullshit, and you keep throwing your fucking children to the damn wolves. You did this shit, and you want to keep pumping out more babies and talk about how it's justified because the means the ends justify the means. So the fact that she's white does not protect you. Your class doesn't protect you. Nothing is democracy doesn't protect you. Nothing is going to protect you from this bullshit. This is an oppressive system of enslavement. I don't know how anybody can sit there through their fucking teeth and defend this oppressive fucking system and say he literally said this was a good kill. He literally said this was a good kill. And this is the same person who has made endless content berating Gary about his defense of CSAM. So you support state violence. State violence is legitimate. So violence on a systemic level is okay, but violence on an individual level is somehow problematic. Boy, you got your priorities all fucked up. Somebody needs to read you for filth, and I'm the one to do it. Now, the reason why the state doesn't have authority. It doesn't have legitimate authority. It exercises power. So right makes right. The state has bigger guns. The state can do whatever the fuck it wants. This person killed her in cold blood. He's going to be protected with immunity. He's not going to be criminally prosecuted. Okay. So let's get that straight. He's going to walk away from this shit scot-free. Now, if life were truly sacred, as they claim, why is the master state allowed to just kill people in broad daylight and get away with it? Because that's what's going to happen. You think that George Floyd was some isolated? And again, y'all are so like you're clutching your pearls about the whole Epstein case, as if this doesn't happen on a regular, like on a day-to-day basis. Like the Epstein case was some anomaly, some like extreme exception to what goes on it's not the law does not apply to everybody. If you're wealthy, if you're part of the master state, if you're part of the elite class, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And having body cams doesn't do shit. It doesn't do anything. They do this shit and they know they're going to get away with it. That's why they're so brazen about it, right? They don't have any empathy. They're cold-blooded killers. They're not protecting you. And you need to read the book, because I already explained that law enforcement does not have a duty to protect you. The case law is there. So when the master state took her life, the master state was exercising superior disposal rights because the master state owns her. She was the master state's living property. The master state can do what it wills with its living property. She does not have a right to her own life. which is the same reason why if she wanted to opt out, she would not be able to opt out because it's not her fucking life. Now, you can debate me on a merits, or you can make ad hominems and red herrings and talk about how I make some armchair diagnosis, or reject whatever my personal assessment is of my own mental state. You don't know shit about me. Anyway, enough about Steve Godfrey. Let me just keep going through this. Every law is violence, right? Every regulation, every prohibition, every tax, it is violence or threat thereof. Democracy is naked violence. It's not legitimate, and you're seeing this. I think what's happening right now is Trump is removing the mask. The violence was always there, but now you're seeing ICE agents killing people in broad daylight. You're seeing him engage in regime change without any legitimate authority whatsoever. And you're thinking that this is something new. No, the only difference is they're being sloppy about it now. They're putting it in your face. But this shit was going on already. This isn't new. They were What do you think happened in Libya? They did the same thing. The exact same thing, but Trump is a little bit sloppy. He's less sophisticated. He doesn't give a shit because he has absolute immunity. And that whole no kings day about, well, no king should have absolute immunity. Trump isn't the only one who has absolute immunity. Judges also have absolute immunity. It's not even just like a Supreme Court judge. A municipal court judge has absolute immunity. A county judge has absolute immunity. A district judge, any low-level judge, any intermediate judge, they all have absolute immunity for everything. Anything except for administrative acts. But if it's judicial in nature, they can literally do whatever the fuck they want, including the death penalty. They can literally impose the death penalty with absolute immunity. They can take your property. They can do whatever they want. This is a tyrannical system of enslavement. I don't know how anybody can justify procreating and putting their children in the system. The public is not going to do shit. The public, you think that just because it's on video and the media is covering it, that the public is going to be outraged and actually rise up? They're not. They're not. They support this shit. What they're going to do is they're going to say, "Oh, she should have just obeyed. If she just would have been more cooperative, this never would have happened." Right? Never mind the fact that the stop itself was illegitimate. Never mind the fact that she never consented to democracy. She never chose to be born. She never chose to be subjected to an ICE raid. She didn't agree to this. This is something that her parents imposed on her when they imposed life on her without her damn consent. Again, if someone tells you, if someone were to say that they recognize this system for what it is, and they don't want to exist in this oppressive ass system, they're going to say call 988 because 988 is actually going to solve this problem. If she would have just called 988, she would actually be okay with her oppression, right? She should have just stopped and called 988 because 988 would have made her comfortable with the fact that her family was going to be deported or detained or subjected to perpetual state violence and not have any legal recourse because everybody's protected with immunity. Now, unfortunately, she is a mother. She was a mother. She had 3 children. She imposed life on those 3 children. Unfortunately, she miscalculated because when she procreated, she assumed that she was going to actually be around to raise those 3 unfortunate children. Nobody has any control of this. Nobody can actually say for sure that they're going to be around to raise their children, if they can actually survive long enough to raise their children. So she gambled, and she gambled wrongly because now her 3 unfortunate children are going to have to grow up without their mother. This is the same risk that all life enslavers engage with anyway. They all take this risk and they all think that it's justified. that they could die while you're still, in elementary school, and you're going to be. There are people who have lost both parents while they were still children, and they're put in foster systems, or they've had horrible lives, but they think that this gamble is completely justified. Now let's go back to the whole vegan army excuse, right? You're going to procreate to create a vegan army. Um, I don't know whether this woman was a vegan or not, but let's say that she was. Let's say that she was a vegan, and let's say that all of her children were vegan. Would the imposition of existence be justified? Would that be ethical? Would it be ethical to create her just so that she can get gunned down by an ICE agent? Is that ethical? Is why so she can save some pigs and some chicken? Like, are you out your fucking mind? Are you out of your fucking mind? This makes no fucking sense. This is some ass backwards ethics. It's so perverse. It makes no fucking sense. Um, I don't understand how, like, I don't want to sit. I know I promised y'all I was going to do content about veganism, but I want y'all to see this in real time. That they think that they're liberating animals, but they're enslaving humans on the back end, and they think this is justified. Um, I don't know how they can defend this because the whole ethical framework is completely ass backwards. The definition of veganism needs to be changed in the first place. It should be, first of all, the definition should the definition in of itself is specious because it focuses on animal exploitation, um, while completely disregarding the exploitation of um, human animals. And I can talk to y'all about that again. That's another live stream. But I want y'all to see this in real time because when we're sitting here theorizing about philosophy and ethics, this is the real consequences of incorrect ethics. Their position is they would have created her to liberate animals, and she would have ended up getting gunned down. Well, probably not, because if she was vegan, she wouldn't even be trying to fight the ICE agent. She would have been focusing on some factory farm and not really trying to help humans. So this probably would have never happened to her in the first place because she would not be invested in social contracts. She would be invested in some creatures that are not a part of social contracts. So yeah, maybe veganism would have saved her because she would have been focusing on animals instead of focusing on humans. Um, Still doesn't make it ethical. Now let me see if there's anybody here. I'm probably losing people. I'm not surprised. No, I'm not surprised. The only part that I take issue with is their flagrant their flagrant defense of state violence. What I was outraged with was I was listening to them talk on Finding Gnosis' channel, and that lawyer motherfucker was sitting there talking about how this is a good kill, how he didn't do anything wrong, how what did he say? He said if you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. I'm like, what? There's no accountability for the state, though, right? And he's going to say that my book is so wrong that I didn't I didn't resolve the non-identity problem. Y'all want me to roast him? I can do it. And I don't know what he posted on his wall, so I don't give a shit about him. I have no interest in. I gave him an opportunity to debate me. He didn't want to. It is what it is. Um, but you don't get to sit up here and support state violence, and then you think you have the moral high ground because somebody. I don't even agree with Gary, by the way, on that whole issue, but I don't think you have any standing because you're a statist and you are far more violent on a systemic level than anybody else. You support this whole system and you're a fucking attorney. So you have made a career out of deploying state violence. I will roast his ass, but I'm not going to do that right now. So I don't know. I guess the whole purpose of this was to connect this to my point in my book, because when you read in the book or I'm talking about it, it sounds so theoretical, it sounds philosophical, um, and academic. Like I was trying to not make my book academic, which is why I use the terminology. But this is life slavery played out right before your eyes. The master state can take your life. The master state has superior disposal rights, which is why he can kill her in broad daylight and suffer no consequences. She was not trying to harm him. She was trying to leave, but she doesn't have a right to leave. She has to just sit there and tolerate state violence. This is life slavery in operation. This is exactly what it looks like. This is what I describe in my book. The state maintains enslavement through perpetual violence. Then I talk about in chapter 4. I mean, we haven't seen it all play out, but what I talk about in chapter 4 is qualified immunity. This is what's going to happen. He's going to claim qualified immunity. He's not going to be prosecuted because this district attorney or whoever, attorney general, they're not going to prosecute him. If you try to sue him civilly, you're going to go up against an army of lawyers, a rigged judicial system, which doesn't give a shit. What's going to happen, again, read chapter 4. What's going to happen is, even if you request a jury trial, now I'm not going to say request, a demand, because it's not a request. It's a demand because you have a 7th Amendment right to a jury trial. They're going to completely disregard your demand for a jury trial, and then what they're going to do is dismiss it on a summary judgment and say that no reasonable jury could have found in your favor. That is the judge taking the role of the fact finder. They don't have the constitutional authority to do that. But again, the Supreme Court has abrogated your actual constitutional rights and created all of these doctrines which are ultra vires. They have no basis in constitutional law, but they're just making shit up from the bench. So you can't defend, you can't protect your children. They have a monopoly on physical force. The law is not going to protect you because you have rights on paper, but in practice, these rights effectively don't exist because they're not enforceable. It's like, yeah, you can sue them, which is your right to petition the courts for a redress of your grievances. But immunity doesn't only protect a judgment or whatever. Like it's protection from the suit itself. You don't even get discovery. So I wanted to talk about qualified immunity and the standards for that, but I guess I'll do that when I review chapter 4 of my book. This is democracy right here. This is not some aberration. This is democracy functioning as it was intended to function. It's a rigged system. Now they'll talk about terrorism. They'll talk about how other countries and third world countries, they're so barbaric, they're so violent. No, this is terrorism. The only difference between terrorism and state violence is the fact that the violence is deployed by a state. So because it is deployed by a state, you see it as being legitimate. It is not legitimate. If you didn't have a state and you were deploying the exact same violence, you would call it what it is. You would call it terrorism. I'm not sure why you're making a distinction. It's the exact same outcome. You're being terrorized in your own fucking country, and you don't have any fucking rights. These are thugs. These are thugs that are making everybody's lives a living hell. Again, go back to the root cause. This all started from the fact that her parents imposed life on her. She did not benefit from her existence. Well, I don't know. Maybe I can't say that as a stated fact. Maybe she did enjoy her life, but at the end of the day, she didn't want to die at that point, right? She didn't know that she was going to be gunned down and take 3 shots to the face. Does anybody think about that when they procreate? Does anybody think that if I procreate, my child is going to grow up to get shot in the face 3 times by some ICE agent? No, of course not. So she maintained a body for 37 years. She worked to maintain that body. She received mortality, suffering, and ultimately she faced a violent death, right? What was this all for? What was this all for? Let me see if I have any comments because I'm pretty much done. This is disgusting, y'all. And I can't believe that they're over there defending this shit. It's not all of them. It's not all of them. I want to be specific so I'm not generalizing about all of them. It's specifically Steve Godfrey who's defending this shit. A sadistic statist who supports state violence, who thinks he's so morally superior. I can't, y'all let me know before I get off here. Put a 1 in the comment section if you think I should roast them. Put a 2 in the comment section if you think I should just take the high road and leave it alone. So they're going to watch this. They're going to see the state violence because it's all around us. This isn't some isolated incident. People are victims of state violence on a perpetual basis, but they don't ignore it. They have deluded themselves to think that we live in a civilized society, that we're so nonviolent and peaceful. We're not. And even when you see that, I guess I'm not sure why they're not recognized as illegitimate violence. Is it because they have nice shiny cars? Is it because they shine their boots and because their uniforms were freshly pressed because they have what, a crease in their pants? Is that because they have some insignia on their uniform? Does that make it less violent? So if this was some thug with some baggy pants and a t-shirt or a hoodie, you would recognize it as violence. But because they're police officers, because they're ICE agents, you think that this makes it somehow different. The bottom line is that she got shot 3 times to the face. So regardless of his uniform, regardless of his presentation, it is still violence and it is illegitimate. It is no different. I can't even wrap my head around how you can defend this and how you can say, oh, well, she should have stopped, right? You play stupid games, you get stupid prizes. So what if some thug were to try to rob her at gunpoint or try to traffic her, right? Would you have that same defense? Would you say because she tried to flee the drug dealer or the human trafficker, that if you play stupid games, you get stupid prizes? Would that be her fault? What did she do to deserve this shit? Because they always want to start in the middle to say that what she fled the scene. She didn't choose any of this shit. Y'all, go back and read the book. Go back and read the book. Specifically, read chapter 4, talking about the legal system, but also read chapter 6, that which talks about the perpetual violence of the master state. And basically the public's complicity, because they're not going to do anything. The public is going to watch this. They're going to be eating their popcorn, and they're going to continue on, business as usual. They don't give a shit. They're going to cry their crocodile tears, right? Maybe they'll pay attention to this for the next 3 days, but then and eventually they're going to move on. I hate to say this. I hate to say this because they're not. There's not going to be the type of outpouring that you got from like a George Floyd, and that is unfortunate. There's not going to be the same type of outcry. I think that there should be. I can't really control that. I think people should be in the streets right now protesting. People should not just protesting. It should be a lot more than that. But I think that should be the bare minimum. That should be a show of solidarity. But you need to be doing more than just protesting. You need to be actively seeking to dismantle this violent, oppressive slave system. Stop voting. Stop paying your taxes. Fuck this bullshit. Stop defending it. Stop legitimizing it. Stop procreating. All right, y'all. I'm done. I think I'm going to see if there's any comments, and then I'm getting out of here. All right, so I got a 1. I mean, that's only 1 vote, but that 1 vote is the majority. So I guess the 1 person has spoken for everybody. So that means that you have collectively decided that I should do the roast. So get ready for it. Get ready for it. It's going to be a doozy. So y'all have a good night. I'm getting on here. And I will be back probably Saturday or Friday to review chapter 3. All right, y'all have a good night.